Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first ever episode of Untitled Stone. This is a new working title of our show, but what's important is that we got the show up and running in time for Ashes of Outland. And this is a Hearthstone-centered podcast. We'll be covering news, play some games, as well as ask some questions or maybe answer some questions as well. My name is Frodan. I am your host, alongside with Brian Kibler, our Twitch stream live host. Kibler, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I've been playing a ton of Hearthstone since Ashes of Outland released. I streamed for like 12 hours yesterday and a bunch more today. So still having a lot of fun.
That's right. I like the no shave look with the robe. It seems like you're really getting used to the quarantine life.
It is a it's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle.
That's right. Well, it's not every day where Firebat's rocking a more clean look compared to Kibler, because usually it's the inverse. Firebat's usually kind of letting that full grown. And Firebat, how is the quarantine life the past few weeks been for you?
I've been enjoying it. I haven't really changed much what I normally do. I've always been kind of a more home-bodied person rather than outgoing. So just been streaming, playing Hearthstone. It's been great.
That's right. It's a new expansion. So as we mentioned, this is the launch of a show, and we're not going to be doing it every week compared to the past. We're just going to be dropping in whenever we can. We're going to be aiming for at the moment once a month as our cadence until we find out a regular schedule that we can get, or perhaps a regular home. But the reason why we were able to even put this episode together is because we did find a sponsor for this episode of our show by NordVPN. NordVPN. For people who don't know, encrypts your internet traffic and hides your IP and physical location like a VPN.
Am I NordVPN? Am I out there fighting on the front lines?
All of us as you. It's if we're all at your place using your internet because you're a NordVPN server, I guess. I don't know.
Exactly.
Is it routing through me? Because I don't want everyone's VPNs routing through me.
Perhaps if you see weird, mysterious activity on a Netflix account, I swear it's not me. But if you don't want any data logging, you want 24/7 customer support. Right now, there's a 70% off of a 3-year plan offer going on. All you have to do is go to nordvpn.com/Brian Kibler and use the code Brian Kibler to get your discount for a 3-year plan. And of course, if you do that, it also supports our show and really helps us make a case to keep the show running. So every little bit matters. So thank you so much to everybody that's already supporting and tuning in, as well as people who will be listening online through the VODs and such. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and first cover any news that we haven't been able to do for the past few weeks and maybe just reflect on it. We don't have to spend too much time, given that there's a lot that we want to do today. We want to talk about, of course, the metagame, the nerfs that just got announced a couple hours ago, as well as some gameplay. So the first thing is there's a bunch of changes that's been happening to things like Battlegrounds, the new duplicate protection, that's come from opening packs. There's also the returning/new player competitive deck that people got, but there's a little bit of controversy there because I think it wasn't really appearing for all the players that were returning after 4 months. So there's a lot to unpack and digest. Has there anything been noticeable for you, Kibler, when you kind of saw all the news? We heard all the announcements, but in practice, has anything particularly stuck out to you in the past few weeks here?
So the duplicate protection thing, I think, actually kind of confused more people than anything else. I've had a lot of people in chat that like duplicate protection isn't working because they're getting duplicates of cards. But it's important to recognize the way that the duplicate protection in this patch works is that you don't get duplicates of cards until you have at least as many copies as you can play in a deck of that card. So, for instance, once you get 2 copies of every common, you will start getting duplicate commons. It's not that you get 2 of every common and suddenly you're only getting rares and above. That's not how it works. So It's important thing for people to understand because I see a lot of confusion about that. They're like, it's broken. No, it just doesn't work the way you think it does.
Yep. So you're not going to be able to corner effectively the opportunity to open like an all legendary pack. That's just not going to happen unless you're incredibly fortunate during that time.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a point of confusion for sure. Firebat, I know that people have been kind of like talking about some of the Hall of Fame stuff and that brief patch that we had, between the Hall of Fame going into the rotation. How is that for you? I feel like a lot of people underestimate like how fun it is sometimes to play in those little pocket metas.
That is a good question, and I do not have a good answer for you because I was pretty burned out on the game, so I kind of took a break and just waited for the new set during that period.
All right. Appreciate your honesty.
I didn't really get too many games. I know Zalay said it was way different, and he kept telling me about how different it was, and it's exciting. There's no Leroy anymore, so Mage is so good now, and I kind of heard things, but I didn't really experience a lot of it. But
Yeah, I actually had a lot of success, playing exactly the kind of decks that I like to play. Like, slow, dirtily, like control type decks with like Plot Twist Warlock and Highlander Priest.
Yep.
Those style of decks with the Hall of Faming of Leroy got a lot better.
Mhm.
And like when you just don't have to worry about taking 15 from hand against a rogue, you can play a very different kind of game against them. So I thought it was a lot more fun, frankly. It was certainly a good sort of way to breathe some life into what was, kind of a stale metagame because it had been around for so long.
It's kind of mean what they did to you guys, though. They took Leroy away, right? And they're like, you can play all your fun Mimi decks now. And you got him for like a week, and then they're like, just kidding, Demon Hunter.
And it's
Damage
like,
is
well,
back,
now-
baby.
Now you're getting Inner Demon to the face.
Twice on turn 7.
Only for 24 hours or so. But again, we'll talk about that coming up as we just wrap up the last bits of news before rotation actually hit. One thing that I believe is an interesting point of discussion that I want to bring up is right before Ashes of Outland released, there's been a trend that the Play Hearthstone team has been doing, which is doing a Theorycraft stream. And they've been having streamers or competitors or just well-known personalities log onto Twitch, and they all simultaneously get access completely to the expansion, all 135 cards or more. And they say, go ahead and just create whatever decks, and they have them play against each other in a closed environment. This has actually kind of led to a little bit of a debate within the community. There's a very loud, outspoken group of people that say that they don't like this. They feel like it kills the hype for them. Feels like it ruins the novelty of a day one meta. And overall, they're just not big fans of it. Now, I know that 2 of you are streamers, and I used to stream, so obviously we understand like the importance of it and why we could benefit from it. But do we like it also? I mean, you guys are participating in it, but I want to hear your opinions on this controversy here.
I do think it's a fun time for streamers, and not just that it's valuable to us. I think that one thing that a lot of people do overlook is that there is value to other people in the community who don't necessarily want to build their own decks, right? I mean, that may sound like, you're just rewarding net deckers or whatever, but there's a lot of people who want to be able to just jump in and play a deck, right? Day one of the expansion, and having there be decks that, they can look at and say like, oh, this is Firebat's deck, this is Crypt's deck, this is Kibler's deck, and I'm just going to jump in and build this. That's actually really, really helpful for a lot of people. And I think that those people aren't the sort of people who are outspoken on social media and Reddit and things like that. So, while there is like kind of a, tidal wave of people complaining about like, hey, this ruins the day one metagame for us, there's a lot of other people who are kind of quietly happy that it does exist. And I do think that it's this time, I think they did a better job with the theory crafting streams, because in the past, they actually had like a like almost 24-hour period at one point, right, that you could like play. And it was much more condensed. It was like 9 to 2 or something Pacific time. And that means that like you're not going to have people really distilling down what the metagame is and breaking the best decks. It's like you get to play like 4 decks for like a few games or something like that, and that's it. So I think that it being kind of a condensed time period is an important part of making it not like this thing which solves the metagame.
Okay, Firebat.
Yeah, I agree that it doesn't really solve the metagame. And I also agree that there's a lot of people that enjoy it, because I think Blizzard is smart enough to realize if the money went up or down when they tried doing this before, and they keep doing it, so it must kind of be working at least.
Right.
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but that's what I'd like to believe that anyway. Otherwise, they're probably making a huge mistake.
If there's one team that I unfortunately usually have to agree with, it's the Business Insights team, the BI team at Blizzard, because they do a very good job diligently researching consumer behavior. So if they kept it around, it means that there's enough people that actually really like it.
What was the best deck coming out of, like, there weren't any good decks that came out of the theory crafting stream. Like, I made a Highlander Demon Hunter deck that had like 95% win rate when I was playing versus the other streamers during that period, and is terrible now. It's not even close to the optimal list. It's like 8 cards off of something the Highlander Demon Hunter list is being played now, and Highlander Demon Hunter's not even good. There's regular Demon Hunters better, and then what's even better than that, I think the combo Demon Hunter's even a little bit better on top of that. So it's not even close.
I do understand the complaints, though. I think for
Yeah.
the hyper engaged people that love to watch streams and play at the same time, and kind of be immersed socially. A lot of people like to play Hearthstone from home in their own comfort, but also at the same time they like to see what's going on with like 5 different streams open and kind of get that new release feeling, similar to Magic the Gathering, for example, that a lot of people relate to back when they were younger, or even still do. So I totally get it. However, I myself, I just don't tune into it, even though I don't really like watch it myself. I recognize that other people really do, especially for people who are trying to play on a budget, right? Like people are trying to find out what day one decks to craft. And I'm sure that it could be improved. Like, I don't think it's like the best. I do like the idea of perhaps doing a tournament leading up to it or something like that, or making it a lot sooner to the expansion instead of just like a week out. But again, this is not necessarily something we make decisions for. I'm pretty sure they just ask people like us to participate, and then we just say yes.
Yeah, honestly, like if it didn't happen, I'd be fine with that too. I do think that the day one hype being like lower, because I do think it is a little bit lower because it does happen. All right, there's not like
Right.
okay, do these decks even work? Because people have seen them. It's not like I don't think things get nearly as refined as people seem to think that they will during that period, especially because of the time limitations. But I don't actually think it's for us, like the streamers.
Yeah.
It's for the audience who wants to see what
Right.
is possible and just be able to jump in on day one without having to like wait to feel like they're comfortable building something.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that, we'll go ahead and put this to rest. I'm sure if we are able to continue talking about this in the future, it's probably because Blizzard did it again, and there's going to be some more controversy about it. So we'll table it for now. In the meantime, we'll do a couple more items and then start talking about Ashes of Outland. The first kind of pertains to Firebat, which is the Masters Tour and almost all of Hearthstone esports across the board moving to an online-only format for everybody. They're having casters stay home. They're having production people work online. They're having the players stay in their living room to the point where people call it Masters Tour living room. It's very fun. I'm guessing Firebat, obviously, you're a busy streamer. You've seen it. You've done it all at this point, been a world champion. So you're very much in favor of this kind of movement?
Yeah, I love it. I've done all the traveling before, so there's that. I like being able to stay home and not go back to all of these places sometimes. I do like traveling though. Occasionally, so I feel bad. I feel bad for the people that are making it into competitive Hearthstone right now that are going to miss the traveling, because that was a really awesome experience to have. But man, it feels good to stay home and stream sometimes too.
and do both, right? Which is the great part.
Yeah. So now though, I think it's going to open up a lot more opportunity for more people to get involved, because there's a lot less time and budgetary restraint to get involved in Hearthstone esports now. So I think the level of play will go up. If you cast a wider net, you're going to get more people. If you get more people, there's a more percent chance that some of them are going to be pretty good. So I think we're going to see a rise of a lot of new faces in competitive Hearthstone now that more people can participate, because you don't need to take 2 planes and a train to get to Jönköping in Sweden. You can just chill home and do it from your living room.
Man, 2 planes and a train. You got off easy heading to Jönköping. If that's all it took to get there.
It's a journey to get there, and a lot of people couldn't do it because they couldn't afford to take the time, or they couldn't afford, like from work, or they couldn't afford to spend the money. So it'll be cool. We might get a lot of older people in Hearthstone too. That'd be kind of interesting. The Hearthstone dads, stuff like that.
That's right.
Hearthstone dad bods are attacked. I mean, I really stopped playing card games competitively in large part due to the travel schedule, right? I didn't really want to keep traveling all around the world competing in events like every few weekends or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I do think that there's something to be said for live events, and I've heard a lot of people say like they think every Hearthstone event should just be online. And I do think that like you lose a lot of the both like atmosphere of the event, like in person, for the players, and also like a broadcast that's happening from people's bedrooms or whatever, and like you don't have player reaction cameras and stuff. You do lose a lot of that, and I think that I hope that when everything returns to some sense of normalcy, that we'll go back to having these cool, epic, big live events. But I think it's great that in the meantime, while people are sort of stuck at home, they're not going to lose the ability to compete in these awesome Hearthstone events as well.
How many events do you think should be live per year in a perfect Hearthstone world? Like 5, 2, 3, 1?
I think you say 5 to something, and then I thought you realized you said like 5 2.
I was-
as a
5
number,
or
like,
2.
random, not like 5 to
No,
10.
No, it's like 5 or 2.
Like,
They're totally different things. Because I was like 5's way too many, so I shot it back down to 2 to give more of a reasonable spread.
We have 6 Masters Tour. I would like half of them. I think half and half would be a really
3?
good cadence for everybody because it's kind of like what you said. It's really good for the live environment, but also just because, like Firebat also said, I miss my friends. I want to be able to
The
hang out with them.
community,
And
yes.
honestly, the community is like a really big hook that is probably even harder to walk away from than the game itself, right? The idea that
think
you have
so.
these long
Right.
life friendships. If Firebat Purple and Zlay will never get together again because they're home streaming, I'm sure there's a little bit of sadness that
Right. If
know,
I never
happens for
met
everybody.
Purple and Zlay and all those guys in person, I don't know if I would still be playing Hearthstone right now.
Mhm.
I might have
Yeah.
just like dipped out in like 2015. So it's pretty important, I think, to have at least some amount of live events so you meet people and you get people coming back in the community every single time. Because that's what I think makes Hearthstone feel like home, is the fact that we've had all these same personalities for such a long time coming back.
Speaking of coming back, Ben Lee and Nathan Lyons-Smith talked about players who are coming back to Hearthstone and some other news pieces. There's an interview done, and I pulled this from the Out of Cards. I believe this was an interview done with a different news outlet, but they dropped some interesting snippets. Like they're open to doing more classes beyond just Demon Hunter. Warrior might see some changes to Charge and Warsong Commander in the future. Some interesting stuff. So if you're like more intrigued about some of the possibilities of what the ideas are going on, Game Dev's head, highly encourage you to go check out this interview. And again, a shout out to the Out of Cards people. They were the group that used to manage Hearthstone, but ever since that split in management, they've kind of made their own site, and they cover a bunch of other games like Magic and whatnot too. And our last piece of news will feed directly into the segment that I know that most people are waiting to talk about, or hear rather, which is there's been an announcement just a couple of hours ago by Dean XR Ayala that the Hearthstone team is planning on making some balance changes, which is unprecedented in Hearthstone. I don't think we've ever had this quick of a balance change that wasn't like a hot fix because there was just like a technological error.
Mhm.
And I usually the reason why is because game devs, especially for strategy games, like to have metas settle to see how people will, play or react or counterplay some of the stuff that's really popular. But this just goes to show you that right now it is Demon Hunter Central in the tavern, and the popularity on some of the sites like HS Replay is out of this world. If you've had an opportunity to take a look and data dive a little bit, people are calling this quite possibly the strongest day one deck to have ever existed in Hearthstone for Demon Hunters. Do you agree with that, Kibler?
I'm not sure that I agree with that. Like, I definitely think Demon Hunter is very powerful. I have had at least yesterday, I had like a significant positive record against Demon Hunters, and as people have been like adapting the better and better versions over the course of like yesterday and today, like that has sort of leveled off more toward like probably winning half my games against them with most of my decks. And it doesn't feel like they're yes, they do crazy things sometimes, but like like any good deck does crazy things sometimes. I think that like there are definitely like some egregious cards. I think Skull of Gul'dan is the card that stands out to me as like the single biggest problem card in Demon Hunter. One of the things that I think is also like kind of frustrating to a lot of people about it is like how powerful it is at kind of like each stage of the game, and a big part of that is Skull of Gul'dan, because like you not only like don't run out of resources, but also like can do powerful things like have these huge explosive turns from the cost reduction and everything. But I have felt like the degree of reaction some people have had seems like it's a bit of an overreaction. But looking at the stat sites, like maybe I'm the one who's wrong, because like not like the popularity thing I don't think is actually the factor that that like concerns me, because this is the first time you can ever play Demon Hunter. Everyone has all the Demon Hunter cards for free, just about. Of course, lots of people are playing Demon Hunter, right? Like, and one of the things that I think can cause those sort of numbers to be kind of off in terms of like what the win rate represents. If you're looking at like win rate across like all ranks and everything, especially the very beginning of a rotation metagame of a new class, everyone has like most of the Demon Hunter cards and can build a good Demon Hunter deck. A lot of people don't have a bunch of cards yet, right? So like Demon Hunters are going to have the advantage of just having more better cards like in people's collections, so that more people can build good decks for that class and in their class. So
there's a lot to unpack there. Firebat, looks like you wanted to jump in. Go ahead.
Demon Hunter is broken though. Like, it's way too powerful. Like there's a lot of reasons why it makes sense for why it might not be, but at the same time, when you put those cards in your hand and you shuffle it up and you play the game of Hearthstone and you're playing Demon Hunter for the first time and you look down at the board and you're like, that's not fair. Like you just know. You just know. Like it's just pure feeling. Just there don't even need to be data with this one. You just know. We had an OTK deck. Me and Zlay were playing yesterday. I think about 1 in 5 games, turn 7 or 8, we would deal 30, not 30 every time. It's more like 25, I'd say. About 25 damage through 3 taunts consistently. Like 1 in 5 games is the cadence of consistency for like that early of a lethal. And that did not feel right. It did not feel right. 3 taunts. It doesn't even matter because you have the Blade Dance card, which can shred the taunts. Because you can run all this situational garbage because of the skull and because of everything else. And you have Silence that draws a card for 1 mana. You believe that?
Yeah.
Like they nerf Owl, they remove Spellbreaker, and then they give them 1 mana Silence that draws a card. And no one's talked about that card yet, even. And that card's insane.
Well, I mean, that's one of the things about like silence effects is that, yeah, they're situational. And like, it's like, okay, well, this is, doesn't, even if it's like not good, it just draws you a card, right? You just cycle through it if you need to find something else. Obviously, it has to be like outcast, but like if you build your deck well, it's pretty easy to outcast most things.
Yeah, Silence is too good.
I mean, for that deck, I think that Kael'thas, and specifically the change that they made fairly late to Kael'thas, is like actually a big part of the problem with that deck. Because Kael'thas, when like they were just about to release it, was your 3rd spell, not every 3rd spell.
Oh, this one chains it with the skull.
You couldn't do that ridiculous chain to like multiple inner demon.
That's why this deck might live the nerf, because this deck half the time, on like you don't have any of the combo except Kael'thas, Twin Slice, and the skull in your hand, and then you draw your entire deck and kill them. Yeah. Like it's if it doesn't matter what they set the skull to for that aspect of it.
That's true, because as long as it's free, it doesn't matter. It could
as long as Kael'thas can do the thing.
Right.
But it will hurt the deck because you can't just play the skull on curve as often.
Right.
Which could then allow it to get aggroed down. But that deck's nuts.
I think that Kibler also kind of mentioned it really well. It just felt like at all points of the game, Demon Hunter was extremely threatening, and it doesn't feel like they really struggle with much, right? Like they took out things like Acolyte of Pain to try and make sure that access to card draw was a little bit more selective, and then Demon Hunter like draws so quick relative to everybody else.
The amount,
it feels a little bit like polarizing ideas relative to what they were talking about in terms of Hall of Faming things like Acolyte of Pain. Not that Hall of Fame Acolyte itself was correct or incorrect. I still don't know, because I think they're obviously planning a year set way in advance, so only time will be able to tell us that. Mm-hmm. In the meantime, with these nerfs, they're targeting Skull of Gul'dan, Imprisoned Antian, I-Beam, and Eldrazi Warblades. For people who don't know or perhaps just listening, Skull of Gul'dan, 5 mana, draw 3 cards, discounted by 3. Imprisoned Antian, which is the 4 mana, 10/6, dormant for 2 turns, deals 10 damage to all enemies when it awakens.
That card's nice.
I-Beam that deals 3 damage to a minion with lifesteal and becomes free if it's outcast. And then Eldrazi Warblades, which is a 3 mana, 2/3 lifesteal weapon. Are these the right cards to target? I mean, you mentioned Skull of Gul'dan, but what about the other 3 here?
I mean, I think Skull's the biggest defender. I think that I-Beam and Warblades means the deck doesn't have like much vulnerability against aggressive strategies. And that's one of the biggest things, comparing it to say like Miracle Rogue, right? Like if you're looking at combo Demon Hunter versus Miracle Rogue, one of the biggest things that sets Demon Hunter apart is that you can just gain tons of life. Your backstab gains you 3 life, right? Like you have like a weapon that you can like hit your opponent for like 10 and gain 10 life. So yeah, I mean, I think that all of them are those. Imprisoned Antian is the one that like kind of doesn't fit to me. I think that card is powerful, but I think that like I actually think that the Priestess of Priestess of Blades or whatever. I forget the name of that. The 7 drops. That actually feels like a more powerful card than the Antian to me.
You give time to play that card.
Well, it's like something's totally different next to the combo one or whatever.
Fury, right? The
Priestess of Fury.
Yeah,
Priestess of Fury. That's the one. The Antian feels like in a lot of matchups, like if you're just paying 5 and doing nothing, you can just get beat up. But the problem is that with I-Beam and Warblades, you often don't care about that time because you're just able to kill other things, gain life, and
You can do some nasty stuff with that guy and mana burn and things of that nature that lock people out and set up 2-turn kills.
Yeah.
I don't know. The card seems really... it just works with the Demon Hunter toolkit so well of taking bursty swing turns onto the board. So any dormant thing is going to be really powerful in that class because you get to control the pace of the game so well. When that thing pops, and if you happen to be developing really big on that turn of mana burning, holy smokes. Like, you save a card on the outside of your hand for when it pops, and then mana burn them, play the card that has this special effect now. Whew. Yeah, that card's really good. Everyone started putting that in everything now. I feel like that card has had the most increase in play rate of any card in Demon Hunter lately. I don't have data to back that up. That's my personal anecdotal feeling of the games.
Well, I got a chance to actually talk to Tiago from HS Replay, who sent us a little bit of a peek
we got some
of
data.
The stats, at least according to what's publicly available through HS Replay. Demon Hunter at all ranks was minimum 50% of the ladder and at least 55% win rate. The next highest classes across all ranks was at 46% win rate with Warlock. So there's an 8% gap, sometimes even 9 to 10% gap between first and second. Meanwhile, 3 classes were below 40 at Warrior, Shaman, Paladin, all at 30, like below 40% win rate.
And that's specifically across all ranks, right?
All ranks. They also gave me a breakdown of Legend, Diamond, Platinum, Gold, etc. But overall, like all ranks, universally across the board, Demon Hunter was overrepresented and also overperforming. And this also applied to all formats. This is also something to
the wild thing is actually what gets me. The fact that it's like actually doing really well in wild is like
number 1 in wild, despite the fact having like 18 fewer expansions or whatever, or 18 sets. It is absurd to think about like Demon Hunter just coming in and dethroning, I believe, Secret Mage or Quest Mage was on top in Wild prior to that. And also Arena, which shouldn't really surprise me at the high power level of these basic cards.
Yeah, Arena is the format that like I feel like Demon Hunter is likely to be the most egregiously overpowered in, because Arena, like, they don't have bad cards because they don't have as many cards. None of their cards are like, filler type cards, right? So like literally every Demon Hunter card you get is a good card for constructed. So like, it's gonna be gross anytime you get any Demon Hunter card in Arena, and if you're playing Demon Hunter in Arena, you're gonna get all of them. So
yeah. So shout out to the HS Replay guys for sending us this. It's all, of course, available now as they set up their meta tab, which I think was disabled until they had enough to pinpoint like archetypal data before they published everything. But it's not all doom and gloom, as we mentioned. Really happy to see such a fast reaction. There's some conspiracies out there, which I believe is one of our questions from a mailbag of, perhaps was this intentional or was Blizzard aware of it? And I'm sure
sure they were kind of erring on the side of making it's okay if it's a little too powerful. I think that had to be the general feeling in the room when they were talking about how they wanted to balance Demon Hunter. It's okay if it's a little strong. It needs to be kind of strong to be exciting. So
right.
I think they overdid it, but
the alternative. There's 2 alternatives. One is that they nail it for balance and it's like 50% across the board, which is, as we know, very tricky to do, especially with a brand new class. I didn't expect it to actually be nailed. I actually expected Demon Hunter to be super powerful because I made a prediction that it was going to get nerfed immediately, but I didn't expect it to be this quick. The alternative is that it's not playable at all, and then it's just like, well, wow, I got so hyped for nothing. This class stinks.
That would be terrible. Everyone would quit.
That would be the worst.
That's a disaster that they definitely wanted to avoid with the planning of how they balanced things.
Yeah.
I think it shows a little.
Well, there's fun stories that we heard in the boot camp, or not the boot camp, but like the summit, where they were like, well, some of these cards got nerfed right before you guys were playing it. And we're like, okay, but these cards still seem pretty strong.
Insane.
Like the Antan was like apparently like a 10-10 or something.
Yeah. Yeah,
it was a 4-mana 10-10, and they were like, that's okay, that's fine.
4-mana
10-10 deals 10.
No, it was still 5 mana, I think, but it was 10-10 instead of 10-6.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
So, we'll see what the actual nerfs are. I believe they said that I believe nothing has actually been clarified yet, nor do we have a timeline, because obviously, given the current situation, it is today. They didn't say when.
It'll go out today.
It might even be going on right now.
I hope Demon Hunter stays pretty strong, honestly. I hope they don't kill it. I don't want it to be weak.
Yeah,
because Demon Hunter is super fun.
Kill it. And the thing is, I think that Demon Hunter has a lot of ways in which it can be weaker and still be good, right? Like, there's a lot of room between where it is now and being unplayable.
Well, it feels like it has everything outside of like a direct control deck that I see. So I'm sure, like Firebat said, there's some combo opportunities that probably still survive the nerf, but definitely their aggressive tempo strategies are like way too strong at the moment. At least
They don't have very much resource generation, right? So it's hard for them to be like control fatigue kind of deck.
Yeah, for now.
For now.
Yeah.
So that's probably why there isn't any like that.
Well, with that, let's go ahead and head into our meta breakdown. This is where we're going to be going through class by class and showing you some of the deck lists that have been performing very well. Obviously, we prepared all this stuff this morning before the nerf announcements. So the first class, we go alphabetically. Demon Hunter is the first class. So these deck lists will change. Now, the one on the left that you see on your screen here, OTK Demon Hunter, one-turn kill. That is something that Firebat and Zalay were kind of playing together. Zalay hit number 5 legend with it. What makes you think that it'll just survive the nerfs? Are you saying that it's because the mana cost isn't going to affect things like Kael'thas specifically?
I think that's one of the reasons why it might be able to survive the nerf. The deck, though, if they take too much away from Demon Hunter's defensive capabilities, combo sort of stuff could really fall apart, and they'd have to resort to mid-rangey kind of strategies. Because this deck really abuses the fact that the Warblade heals for so much and that they can get away with doing nothing and drawing a lot of cards. Because you really need to draw a lot of pieces to make this Kael'thas combo come off. You need to get 2 Twin Slices, 2 Inner Demons, the Kael'thas itself. That's already 5 cards. That's too many for a combo deck to work in most circumstances. But it's being carried by the fact that it has all of the crazy, insane utility. So if they only nerf the Skull, I think maybe it could live. But I don't think this deck's going to live through too many nerfs if they end up nerfing all of the cards that they said they were thinking about nerfing, which was what? Like Warblades, I-Beam. Those are 2 of the sustains.
I-Beam and Skull. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, if they only nerf I-Beams and Skull, maybe it'll live. Because we were only running 1 I-Beam towards the end of it, and I think we ran 0 at some point. So there's definitely room for things to change. But I just love combo decks, and playing that deck just feels so good. The deck really feels like it can do almost anything, and your decisions really matter with how you order your turns and stuff. So I think it's a really fun thing to try if you haven't tried it yet.
Fair enough. Do you think aggro Demon Hunter that just kind of plays low curve and generally tries to get a lot of pressure going onto the board, especially centered around the Antaean, Kibler, do you think that deck is basically going to get knocked down a few pegs here?
I mean, I assume that their goal is to knock it down a few pegs. Like I said, I think that the biggest problem card is Skull of Gul'dan. I think that there's just so many cards in Demon Hunter. Like look at the list. Look at how many cards just say draw a card, right? Like the Sigil Runner, Spectral Sight, Skull of Gul'dan. Like in the there's the Chaos Strikes even. There's just so many things that just cycle you through your deck so quickly. And Skull, whenever Skull hits one of those other card draw cards, like it just gets you through your deck even faster for free. And like that, I think is the biggest issue with Demon Hunter, is that you just have the ability to like chain your best cards into your best cards because of Skull of Gul'dan so often.
Right.
And that like I remember when I think my review or whatever, I was like, I think that Skull of Gul'dan is gonna be the card that you complain about the most. You're like, oh, my opponent drew 2 Skull of Gul'dans, and I didn't think about quite how often you're just going to Skull of Gul'dan into Skull of Gul'dan, and you just end up chaining them, and it just is completely nuts. I mean, look at the curves in these things. Like almost every card you can just play if you draw it of Skull of Gul'dan. So you're able to move things around and outcast everything, and I think that's really like the linchpin for these decks being so powerful.
Yep, makes sense to me. Firebat, we spent a lot of time talking about Demon Hunter already, so any closing thoughts? Is there any deck missing, perhaps, that I didn't pull up here for our show?
For Demon Hunter decks? I mean, these are the main 2 I think you're going to see the most of. There are some that are, like the one on the right, but a little more high curve, a little more mid-rangey. They play the 5-mana deal 4 to everything, and some immolation auras so that they can farm the people playing the slightly lower curves. Because a lot of the low curve Demon Hunter stuff only has 2 health, so immolation aura removes it really well. So if you're versing a lot of aggro Demon Hunter out there, try teching in some immolation aura. That card is sweet right now.
Yeah, you're talking about Chaos Nova, right? The
Chaos Nova. Yeah,
damage
that's
thing.
another
Okay.
good one that you can include. I think a Demon Hunter goes wide really easily. They're drawing a lot of cards, and in order to draw a lot of cards, you also got to play a lot of cards because you can only hold 10. So they're picking cards up and putting them down really quick. And so that means there are a bunch of little guys on the board. So that means they're going wide. And so AoE is really good.
All right, so the next class on the alphabetical list is Druid. Druid has had a few different variants kind of pop up here. One of them is they call it Big Druid. This is the summon a bunch of big threats, very similar to what we saw with the Embiggen, but some people don't play Embiggen lists, which is pretty interesting. We've seen some token Druid lists, and the one that's not necessarily on the screen right now is Spell Druid. That was played by Matsup. That focuses on just a lot of the spell only things and being able to summon a bunch of minions and try to pressure that way by getting a bunch of free cheap cards. Have any of you, Kibler or Firebat, played any Druid decks? And if so, has it been any of these or played against them?
I've played against a decent amount of Druid. Most of the Druid decks I've run into have been the ramp version. Overgrowth is super powerful. Overgrowth is like better than old Nourish was for mana ramp. Obviously, the fact that you can't also use it for card draw, gives it a little bit less flexibility, but it's more powerful as a raw ramp card. The fact that you can Breath of Dreams into Overgrowth into 7-drop just on curve is so good. And the ramp decks have lots of ways to take advantage of that. Like one of the things that happened to me earlier today was just like my opponent, ramps up, plays a 7-drop, we trade a little bit, plays Ysera, and I'm like beating him up, and he's just like, okay, I will overflow. So it's like with a bunch of the dream portals in the deck, heals himself, heals his taunts that I had whittled down a bit, gets a bunch of dragons and draws a ton of cards. I'm just like, oh, I am dead. There's just the ramp, the power level of the ramp is about as high as it has been. It's not as much as Jade Druid had, for instance, but it can go really big really fast.
Yeah, the ramp is really cool. It's allowing you to do a lot of sweet things, especially combo stuff. I got killed by Nan. I think that's the right amount of ands. He was playing a combo ramp druid deck involving Ethereal Augmerchant and Rustworn Initiate, which are neutral cards that Battlecry deal 1 damage to a minion and give it +1 spell damage. And then in conjunction with Kalthas and Germination, was able to clone those to then create a bunch of spell damage and kill me. So
wow,
there's some wacky stuff going on with Kalthas Druid plus ramp, and there's a lot left to be figured out there. But there's stuff that seemed pretty dank.
Yeah, Kalthas is a scary card.
Yes.
We were talking about on the in the subject of Demon Hunter, but also with Druid being able to Kalthas and innervate into whatever in Wild, but right before the set came out, Druid with Kalthas combo style stuff was outrageously powerful.
Right.
So that I think is a scary card. With that last minute change they made they're like, okay, Kalthas is cool, but we want to make him a little bit better, and they just took off the restriction that only worked for the 1 spell per turn, and they might need to put that back. I feel like Kalthas is going to be responsible for some really disgusting things otherwise.
It's a big brain card, though. That card is hard to set up and use. Yeah. It is some crazy stuff. It makes the kind of combo decks. Oh, sorry. It makes the kind of combo decks that when you look at the deck list, you're like, I don't even know what the combo is. I don't know how this actually kills anybody. That's why I love it.
What would you say you do here? I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good description. I always, when I looked at a bunch of the classes and looked, what are your 0 mana cost cards for this class and what are your most expensive spells? And I definitely think Druid uses it really well. Rogue has a bunch of cheap cards, but do they have any really good top end spells? Hard to say. But one thing is for sure is that I think the spell Druid has a lot more exploration to go for. Hit top 25 legend. The other decks that we show were top 100 or a little bit on the outskirts of it. And by the way, all the deck lists that we try to pick here for our show are legend viable or even ranked top 10 legend viable. So hopefully that spurs some ideas or give you some hope or maybe some new things to try your dust on if you open some of these cards. Anything else on Druid? Are we missing anything here? Because again, we only got to pull deck lists from the past day or so.
That's pretty much what I've seen. So
let's go ahead and move on to Hunter. Now, Hunter, I had actually a lot of difficulty. There wasn't many decks out there. There's obviously like a Highlander Hunter that some people may still be playing, but the only thing that I kind of saw people hitting Legend with was Quest Hunter, and the reason why I caught my eyes because it had King Crush in it.
For the OTK.
Yeah, exactly. There's some fun stuff that you can do with it, but overall, I wasn't really impressed when I tried playing the deck. So I want to see if you guys either had better Hunter decks out there, or perhaps I missed something.
So I played some Hunter today, and I won 0 games. I played like a couple of versions of like Beast Death Rattle Hunter, and I literally went 0-5. I feel like Hunter historically has really suffered in metagames against like very strong, like aggressive classes because you don't have a hero power that impacts the board. You need to get in the board with your early minions. And Demon Hunter is a nightmare for regular Hunter because they get down faster than you. They have a hero power that can kill your early game stuff. They can twin slice away your early guys, and you just cannot maintain any kind of pressure on the board. So I feel like, obviously after the nerfs, Hunter will, we have a better chance of that matchup. But I feel like fundamentally, the way that matchup is going to go structurally is always going to be pretty bad for Hunter.
What do you think about some of the archetypes? I see what people are saying in chat. They're saying, like, what about the decks that was good the last expansion, Dragon Hunter, or like even being very aggressive with the Face Hunter burn? Do you think those are viable whatsoever right now?
I mean, I think that right now, like, you're gonna get raced by like Antian and Warglaive, right? Like against Demon Hunter. I think even if you're playing Face Hunter, I think that the tools the Demon Hunter decks have are like feel like they're more powerful at doing similar sorts of things than what those decks do. Again, we're gonna see nerfs, and that can obviously change at least in terms of degree. But the fact that they're both decks that are trying to do aggressive things, and they do those aggressive things similarly well, and one of them heals, right? Like that's a huge gap.
It's a big difference. It heals a lot also.
Right.
Yeah.
So to answer the question, I think people are asking is that there is a role for an aggressive deck, and if Demon Hunter's nerfs are severe enough that they're not the best fast deck, I think that's where things like Dragon Hunter come back. But for now, if there's something that does it better, more efficiently, and also even has a better late game plan, because I always feel like Dragon Hunter sometimes kind of sputters out if it doesn't get going, and then they're just playing like mid-range minions, and then you can just finally get your late game plan going if you are that kind of deck. So Hunter is definitely one of the big losers in my opinion in terms of the deck list. I scoured everything. I scoured Hearthstone top decks, HS Replay, iHaroon's Twitter feed. I couldn't find anybody posting any Hunter lists. So if you got them, go ahead and share them, and we can feature perhaps in the next episode. In the meantime, we have Mage. Now, I know Mage is a class kind of special to Kibler because he played a ton of Spell Mage. I got a chance to check out some of that. It was really fun. Talk to me about Spell Mage, Kibler. What's so fun about it?
Spell Mage is neat because your gameplay is really weird, right? Like most of the time you're like, okay, you're trying to establish a board, like protect your minions, whatever, play to whatever. But Spell Mage, I think, really leans very heavily, of course, on the no minion cards. The really important one being Font of Power. Like I love decks that like typically win the game, in different and unusual ways each time. And Spell Mage being able to generate like, it's like, what did I get off of Font of Power this game? Sometimes you get like an Antonitis and you're like, okay, now I'm an Antonitis, game plan. Sometimes you get Dune Sculpt and you're like, okay, I'm gonna find out what my next game plan is, right? Like there's a ton of things you can do. I do feel like the deck very frequently just plays like tempo burn, because like Learn Draconic and all of your cards being spells means that you're like, you play your Learn Draconic on 1, and then you're like frequently creating a dragon on like turn 4. And then just like, you play a turn 4 6/6 and you freeze your opponent's stuff, you Apexis Blast, make another guy, and just kind of rush them down. So, because of a Apexis Blast and Learn Draconic, you actually play more like a minion deck sometimes. But when those don't come up, you're like trying to kind of maneuver in this weird Font of Power way.
That's funny. You cut all the minions from your deck because you want a new experience and end up playing like a minion deck.
I mean,
like a random
do so in
like
kind of a roundabout way. One of the
Yeah.
cards that actually impressed me the most was actually Deep Freeze. Deep Freeze, like when you initially see that in the spoiler, you're like, oh, 8 cost for this. But like, especially against Demon Hunter, freezing their face is really powerful. And between like Deep Freeze, like I actually think I would swap the numbers. Like this is the list that I was playing before. I think I might
Right.
swap the numbers and play 2 Deep Freeze, 1 Power of Creation rather than the other way around. Because
Yeah.
freezing the face of a Demon Hunter is so good at keeping you alive. And because of Warblades, keeping them from being able to heal. Their life gain is contingent on actually punching you and your stuff. And if you are freezing them, they can't heal, and you just get to burn them out better.
Yeah, I
Gotcha.
lost a game to a mage playing a little bit different than Spell Mage or Highlander Mage, but like Dragon Mage, I guess, because it was just double Dragon Caster, double Deep Freeze, and that's how they were trying to combat Demon Hunters, was play Deep Freeze more often, faster. So,
Has there any been were there any changes since we saw this deck be uploaded? I know it's only been like a day or so, but you said the 1 Power Creation, you would rather it be a second Deep Freeze. Is there any other changes you would suggest here?
I haven't played the deck since yesterday. It depends what the metagame looks like. In a Demon Hunter metagame, I think that's the main change I'd make.
Okay.
Maybe I would play like an even like an Arcane Explosion against all the 1/1s, whatever, something like
Sure.
that.
Stop the early aggro.
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, like, I think that you might want like a little bit more early game rather than having some of the late game power there.
Mhm.
Like maybe you don't even want Power of Creation, you just want double Deep Freeze, and you want like an Arcane Explosion if you're just trying to beat the Demon Hunter decks. But yeah, I was really impressed by Netherwind Portal 2. Against like Demon Hunter, for instance, Netherwind Portal, a lot of times when they're just trying to push damage, right? They're like using Twin Slice or Chaos Strike, and like they're trying to push into you, and you're like, okay, well, I get a 4-drop, and obviously there's lots of 4-drops that can really mess up their plans. The one that I always want to get is just Snapjaw, right? Like Oasis Snapjaw
Yeah.
is like, all I want is health
at
here. Come on.
2/7.
Right. All right. Highlander Mage, I think people know that it is a very solid deck just going into this expansion. Is there any commentary you want to pass on Highlander Mage? It seems pretty straightforward with some of the new inclusions.
One card that I saw, I saw APX Void using, I think, was I forget the name of it. It's the What a Day, What a Glorious Day, the Rust Rider, I think.
Mhm.
It's
A lot of people playing that and everything.
Yeah, that card
Yeah.
I think is just one of the best like neutral cards. It's a rush taunt that can take out a lot of mid-range things
Mhm.
and help defend you, and that's the kind of thing that a minion dense Highlander deck like this is looking for.
Hmm.
Cool. Definitely a good inclusion. And Highlander Mage deck lists, I will always trust APX Void to tell me what he feels like is very cutting edge. So go ahead and check it out. In the meantime, let's pick up the pace a little bit here, but we don't have that many more decks because it feels like a lot of classes have been kind of choked out a little bit. We have Paladin coming up here. Now, Paladin, one of their main feature mechanics for the set are the Librams, and being able to center it around Lady Liadrin, being able to have all those Librams replayed. You have some people also playing pure variants of it. I believe Colento was trying this list, like a pure Libram Paladin that try to play a little bit cool with the class only cards. That's what we call pure. And so Paladin has not been successful for me. I played 2 games of Paladin, went 0-2. I said, I'm not playing this class anymore. Did you guys feel similarly, or did you even get a chance to try Paladin?
I actually had decent success with Paladin. Specifically playing like pure Paladin, I did terribly with. I think pure Paladin really struggles. I think that if you're playing the Libram style of deck, one of your best cards in a lot of matchups is Libram of Justice, and you really want to be able to maximize using Libram of Justice with Wild Pyromancer. Without Wild Pyromancer, you just lack the ability to consistently clear the board. And if you don't have the ability to consistently clear the board with Wild Pyromancer, you really need to be proactive. And there's no good 1-drop for pure Paladin. There's only Brazen Zealot and the Sungil, the Imprisoned Sungil. So there's just like nothing you can play on turn 1 that you can then like Hand of Adal or Libram of Wisdom on turn 2 against a Demon Hunter. Right? Like you really want like at least a 2 health guy, preferably a 3 health guy, and they just don't exist in Paladin right now. So I think that's the biggest problem with pure Paladin specifically, and why I think that a controlling non-pure Paladin is a better direction.
Interesting.
With the non-pure Paladin, you can also run Stone Tusk Boar and do an OTK as well. So there are some OTK finisher options in Paladin with the Librams. It's
I
like
mean,
because you can get the
are you
Librams.
playing like a Blessed Champion or something?
Yeah, it's like Blessed Champion Kalthazar stuff on the Stone Tusk Boar. So you're Blessing a Might and then like Librams of Wisdoms for 0, and then
that's like the APM priest from last year.
Yeah,
Play
something.
Stone Dust board, flip the health all the time.
Yeah,
I feel like
it's bad, but it's
I
there.
feel like I feel like the Libram Paladin deck is like fine, but like it really struggles because it doesn't have anything that really like goes over the top when you're playing against anything that isn't just like a minion deck, right?
Mhm.
You don't have like good card generation. You don't have like a game plan that's anything other than like
Well,
make.
could I interest you in an 8-card combo finish to close it out?
Yeah, I mean it's a good point. Like when you're going up against decks that are playing cards for virtually zero, either through Gallic Rons or through like in the previous expansion, and now we're going through Demon Hunter. It feels like this deck plays a little bit too fair in terms of getting it set up. Everything else is going to be like way quicker in terms of getting their ridiculous combos off. So yeah, I would agree. I think that Libram Paladin by all means is not bad, but I don't think it's like I don't think it's broken enough, I guess, so to speak. In terms
It's
of
fine. Like I actually had pretty decent success against like the aggro demon hunters playing Libram Paladin. You have tons of healing, tons of removal. It's like very, very much struggles against the combo because like Firebat said, they can just blow through a bunch of taunts and it's like hit you for 20 something. And even with a ton of healing and a ton of taunts, it's difficult to actually stop them from doing that because you don't legitimately pressure them very much. But yeah, I think that it's like okay, but not really a deck that stands out as being super good.
Okay. Are we missing any Paladin decks?
Well, Paladin's got some Murloc cards, so I saw some Monsanto playing a little bit of Murloc Paladin, Murloc Aggro Paladin. They try and use
the Tip the Scales deck.
I don't know if
there's no prismatic lens, so I don't think it's Tip the Scales, right?
I don't think so. But he just played like generally aggro-y stuff, and it included something that's kind of cute. The Fish Flinger adds a card to your opponent's hand, thus messing up their outcast. So it actually just shuts off the outcast from one side of their hand until they play that card. So there's potentially some counterplay to Demon Hunter that exists that involves aggro Fish Flinger decks. Maybe not Paladin, but just in general.
King Mukla makes it come
how
back.
How many more ways are there to add stuff to your opponent's hand? Like, is Grifter still around? Can you just give your opponent an expensive card to mess up?
God, Grift this time.
Grifter would have been insane.
Yeah.
The broken tech card against Outcast.
Keep an eye out for it. I think we all know that if Murlocs get off to a good start, they can usually steal a win from most decks. It's just whether or not they're consistent enough. Well, so I didn't see any Paladin Murloc lists.
I do think that the Imprisoned Sungill is very good for Murloc Paladin because it's a Murloc that like allows you to kind of save a board until a turn that you can actually buff it. Because one of the biggest problems that Murloc decks have is you have to play out your guys and they have to survive until you get to play like your Colet Seer or whatever. Unless you're playing Battlegrounds, then they just survive and then you have the biggest thing on the board. But with Imprisoned Sungill, you just like turn 1. You just play this, and they hide until turn 3 when you can, in fact, just play Coldlight Seer. So I think that there's actually something there. Like, I haven't actually tried it yet, and I do think that it's likely very bad against at least the current versions of Demon Hunter because if you don't have Imprisoned Sungill, you're just not doing anything for 3 turns and they're killing you. Even if you do have it, you're again not really doing much on the board. But I think that like if Demon Hunter gets nerfed or when Demon Hunter gets nerfed, like it might be something that's worth looking at.
The rise of the fishes.
One can only hope.
We're not hoping for a Murloc meta, please.
We're hoping for some things to rise so that Paladin can kind of put its stamp on the metagame.
Probably not toxic Murloc aggro decks. I don't know. We have the Hungry Crab will come
Why are
down.
Murlocs toxic? Because
it's a strategy that involves about dumping all the cards in your hand and then buffing all the cards on the board. And you just kind of until they're dead.
You just don't like Murlocs. You have something against Murlocs personally.
I don't have any personal vendetta.
A lot of
versus
decks like
Murlocs.
that have existed in Hearthstone.
They've not been my cup of tea.
Were you killed by roving packs of Murlocs along the shores of? I forget the name of that zone. Like
the shores.
Everyone dies to Murlocs in World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, do they?
Murlocs kill all. Yeah.
Well, Murlocs were like one of the biggest killers of like anyone. Like bigger than like Westfall. That's what
I only played World of Warcraft for like I had like the free trial thing, so I did it for like an hour or whatever. So maybe I did die to the Murlocs, and that's just a repressed memory I've been living with.
Yeah, you
because it was so horrible, I had to repress it deep inside me, and now it's coming out. Is my hatred towards the Murloc
Firebat, you should consider Murloc therapy. It can be.
Murloc therapy.
This
Is the
Murloc
therapist a Murloc in this scenario? Because I don't speak Murloc.
No, it's a hungry
Or-
crab.
Oh, there we go.
God. All right. Well, while Firebat seeks therapy, we're going to move on to Priest. Priest seems to be one of the classes that actually could stand up to Demon Hunter, primarily the Resurrect Priest. This is a rank 2 legend list by Su Young, playing just a bunch of Resurrect effects. And I did go up against it. Was not playing Demon Hunter, and I still got wrecked by it. So it seemed like Resurrect Priest is not just a Demon Hunter counter, but just a very powerful deck right now.
Yeah, Resurrect Priest is pretty much the same as it was before,
Yep.
except it got a little bit better. There's a little bit more flexible things to do with like Renew to fill in some loose mana and keep you alive to get to those big turns. Me and Zalay and Galen were all playing together at Top 10 Legend, and we versed Su Young, I think 5 times, and we had a very successful win rate. It is Demon Hunter's the combo variant anyway has no problem because they have like these big things that they try and do on 9 mana, and you're just like mana burn, and they're like I'm Priest, and they have to pass their 9 mana turn now because you took away 2 of the mana because they want to play Mass Resurrection and they can't, and then they put up this giant wall of taunts, and then you're like, give myself 20 attack for free. 2 mana, kill everything. 2 mana, kill everything. Kill you. So, at least versus the combo ones, it doesn't stand a chance. But versus the aggro ones, it has to be doing work because they were able to stay in top 10 Legend, which is pretty sick. So, maybe it's an answer to at least the aggro variants of Demon Hunter.
Between like Penance, Breath, and Holy Nova, you have a lot of early game removal that clears their board. Some of it just incidentally heals you.
Right.
And
Demon
a
Hunter's
bunch
3
of taunts
drop.
and stuff like that. Bunch of healing with like water bears and whatnot.
Demon Hunter's 3 drop dies to Holy Nova because it's a 3 mana 4/2 that
Right.
makes it 2/2. That's what a lot of people were playing. So Holy
Yeah,
Nova
that dying to both Holy Nova and Breath is like pretty brutal.
Yeah.
In general, I've been kind of impressed by how much better Holy Nova has gotten just from that very small but impactful 1 mana shift. So yeah, like Priest, Resurrect Priest, definitely on the menu. Now we also have Highlander Priest. Kibler was actually playing some Highlander Priest as well. I believe this even might be your list that's featured.
No, that's slightly different than mine, but I actually think Highlander Priest is pretty good. Like it has a lot of the same tools as Resurrect Priest to beat like the Demon Hunter aggro decks. You have a bunch of like early game board clear, like Imprisoned Homunculus is really good. Reliquary of Souls is like pretty good. And you have like decent stuff that you play like that. I didn't even see a Zephyrus.
Zephyrus bottom right. It's in the bottom.
Oh,
right.
okay. I was like, where
Yeah,
is Zephyrus? I'm like going down. Okay.
The
Okay.
deck list it was organized by classes and neutral cards.
Bottom
so
right,
3 neutral
buddy. There it
cards.
is. Okay.
Bottom right.
But yeah,
this was
there's like
Theo's deck list.
a lot of the new priest cards as well are pretty powerful. And obviously a lot of the sort of buff that came through stuff like Holy Smite and Holy Nova are pretty big upgrades here. You see the Shadow Madness there as well. Shadow Madness I don't think is necessarily like amazing in the metagame right now, but like even just being able to like 2-for-1 like the 2/1 guy in there growing 2/2 is like really powerful on turn 3.
Yeah, it's very true. Very true. Any other comments on Priest? Otherwise, you can move on to Rogue.
Priest might be the savior of the meta. That would actually be
For the
pretty cool.
last few hours, at least.
Yeah.
I'm just saying in general, you want Priest to be the savior of the meta.
I think it would be cool because Priest it's been a while since we've had a good Priest. Priest was the king for a little bit, and then it fell, and it really hasn't climbed its way back.
I mean,
for a long
my
time.
record with Highlander Priest was 7-3,
Okay.
including 5-2 against Demon Hunter.
Well, I'm more curious about the non-Demon Hunter things because I think Priest Toolkit's so good versus Demon Hunter.
Yeah.
But
Right.
it's like the other stuff that
It lines up
scares
pretty
me when I
well.
play Priest.
Right. Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, like I feel like you're good against basically like most minion decks and bad against most combo type decks, right?
Right.
Yeah, the struggle is
there a
that Priest,
tradition?
whenever Priest was good, it was the best, and it was absolutely overpowered, and also very oppressive to other decks. So, can we find a deck of Priest that doesn't feel like that? And I'm sure there's a lot of data that could be argued either way, but I think most people's sentiment was when Priest was on top, it did not feel great to play against. And hopefully that rework of Priest, if it does end up being good, enough to help stay relevant after the nerfs for Demon Hunter.
Well, I do think
we'll see.
think that just the play pattern of Priest and one of the things that made Priest feel so oppressive was Northshire Cleric. And if you fell behind a Northshire Cleric, you just remained behind, and you couldn't even play anything into it without getting more behind because of the nature of the card draw effect. And I think that the Priest decks now feel very different, right? Like I think that Resurrect Priest kind of has its own way that it feels frustrating to play against. It's like
still don't like Resurrect Priest though, even though it's different than Northshire Cleric. Because I played Resurrect Priest like all last patch or last expansion, however you want to word it, and I thought it was the most funny deck ever. Because eventually you'd add 30 birds to their deck from the albatrosses, and they're just drawing birds the whole game. I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, that was funny.
I thought that was the greatest gameplay ever, but Twitch chat wasn't that into that for some reason. They were still like, oh, boo, Res Priest. It's like, dude, you have 30 birds in his deck. This is nuts.
It feels like Priest either ended the game really quickly through things like Combo Priest, Divine Spirit, Interfire, or they just annoyed you to death. Like, that was like their win condition. It's like they didn't have a way to actually drain your health to 0. They just had ways to make this excessively long for no reason.
So we need to make Priest be able to kill people like on time. Priests, they kill people too early or they kill people too late, and we need somewhere in the middle.
Well, it's funny because people hate like dying to aggro because it takes they're like, oh, I didn't get a chance to do anything. They also hate losing to control because they're like, oh god, the game takes so long. So they only want to lose to like exactly a 6-drop, right? Like if you play a Boulder Fist Ogre and beat your opponent, they're like, all right, good game, man. But like anything before that, way too fast. Anything after that, it's like, Resident Sleeper.
Interesting.
That's right. But it can't be a 6-drop even played a little too soon. It has to be played exactly.
Yeah, you can't iterate that out.
No.
That's true. It has to be played on turn 6.
Remember Mysterious Challenger? That was played on 6. People freaked out about that. Maybe people just complain.
Oh, you figured it out.
Well, if you're a rogue player, you probably might feel on the complaint side in terms of the number of viable decks. I haven't seen many rogue decks really make the cut here, but I have seen one deck that intrigued me. It is a stealth rogue. A lot of people have been trying to play aggressive versions of it. This is one by Jay Alexander. And it's just basically trying to tempo out with a lot of pressure using the good old stuff, like some of those combo cards from Rogue, but also some of those new stealth interactions. I thought this deck, specifically the aggro stealth rogue, would have performed a lot better because I thought that both aggro rogue and Demon Hunter rogue Demon Hunter would have been the fastest decks on the market, but yet aggro rogue doesn't seem to be picking up in popularity largely because of Demon Hunter. But I still think there's a lot of potential in this class, even though people aren't playing it right now.
Well, it's just it's kind of like the same thing Kibler said with the Hunter. They're both kind of doing the same thing, except Demon Hunter's doing it while lifestealing, and Rogue is just doing it without the lifesteal.
Yeah,
and that's a big difference.
I did not see any other rogue decks. Gallic Ron Rogue, is that just not being played whatsoever right now?
I think people are sick of it.
I played against like Secret Stealth Rogue, like basically just because a few of the secrets are pretty good and the Secret Mistress or whatever is super good.
Yeah.
It doesn't really take much of a package to do that.
I bet you we'll see more Gallic Ron Rogue though in the future. I don't think it's going to go completely gone. It's just that people played so much Gallic Ron Rogue in the past, and now they're like, all right, new stuff is out. I'm not going to play Gallic Ron Rogue, and they're making something different, which is good to see. Or they're playing Demon Hunter.
By the way, I just saw in the chat and also on Twitter that the balance patch is live.
Yeah, I linked it in the chat thing here.
Yeah. So we could talk about it. Do you want to go through the rest of the class, or do you just kind of want to shift the discussion into this right now?
Let's finish up going through the classes, then we'll talk about the specific nerfs.
Okay, cool. So coming up next, we have Shaman. Shaman surprisingly had a couple of archetypes, one of them being Highlander Shaman. I think this was a Kibler deck.
That's my deck. That's definitely my deck. I saw the knuckles in there, the bog spine knuckles in there.
Yeah. Well, did it actually work for you, or is this just?
I mean, I like had a winning record with this deck. I mean, that doesn't necessarily say too much, but like, I made it basically just to like meme and play like ridiculous cards. Banner Smosh and Bogspire Knuckles. The Knuckles are actually better than I thought they'd be. They're super good with like. For one, if you like get garbage things off like Fist or whatever, but it's like the Knuckles are really good to like because you can load them up like play your like Vosh Prime or whatever, cast a spell, and then get an 8-drop off of it. Vosh was actually very good in this deck. Lady Vosh, the Vosh Prime was like very powerful, like giving you these, tools to like clear the board and everything. One of the really interesting things, and that lots of people have been talking about, is that Fist of Frodan, if you play a 1-cost spell, will always give you Reliquary of Souls. So like in a lot of matchups, you can just get more Reliquary of Souls in your deck, with your like Earthshock, Lightning Bolt type stuff. And that can like help insulate you against fatigue, give you like this longer game power plan of additional like untargetable creatures. I think this particular version is definitely like way too greedy with like Feoris and all this extra stuff, but I think like the sort of core stuff of the Highlander Shaman package is actually quite powerful.
Huh.
Like I really liked Torrent. I really liked like Marsh Spawn. I really liked Serpent Shrine Portal. Those are all really good. There's likely lots of better options to play for some of these things to give you better options against like Demon Hunter and everything. You probably want to have more early game. You probably want to have like the Sandstorm Elemental and stuff. But this was like a very greedy like hour 2 deck or whatever for the metagame.
Sure. There was a player that got to top 50 legend with Gallic Ron Evolved Shaman. His name was Salad Mansion. I thought that was interesting enough to feature. Being able to play a little bit of the old stuff that we know and playing the Knuckles. So if you are a fan of it, I know there's a lot of Shaman fans in the chat, especially given that Shaman went from hero to 0 last expansion. It was the #1 enemy, and then all of a sudden, basically fell all the way to the very bottom of the ladder. And yeah, Shaman really hasn't recovered since. So give it a try and see how you feel. Warlock is a class that has been rising up to try and fight against the Demon Hunter invasion. And yes, we do know that the Demon Hunter patch is through, but we'll talk about that right after. Quest Warlock, no longer really a meme, Kibler. It was actually one of the ways you stopped Demon Hunter. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I was playing Plot Twist Warlock a bit, and I ended up like not quite at this list. And I think this list, frankly, I think is actually probably a bit more powerful than the one that I've been playing. I was still playing like Rafam, which wasn't good, but like just was sweet. But yeah, like the fact that with Quest Warlock you can like play sack pacts naturally, which are just super good against a lot of the Demon Hunter minions. Like they play like Antaean or the Priestess of Fury, or whatever, and you're like, okay, I'll kill that, gain 5 life, and play something else. It's just obviously really, really powerful. And you have lots of built-in life gain with like Broodmother plus Plot Twist. This person was even playing Sense Demons, which was something that I was playing as well. Sense Demons getting you the Broodmothers and Enhanced Dreadlord, and also getting the Kenrithid Prime, and be able to like get back the Dreadlord and the thing that it spawns is like really, just this really potent late game. So I think it's actually like a totally legit like deck right now.
It's very legit. This hit rank 66 legend by a Chinese name called Creator of the 7 Stars is what it translates to, in case you ever encountered that name. In the meantime, Gallon, Hearthstone Grandmaster from Americas, was hitting top legend with Zoo Warlock featuring Wisp, and trying to buff a lot of those Zoo Warlock minions through some of the discard mechanics. Love the Stone Tusk Boar and the Wisp in there. Just felt really memey there, but overall, it's a very solid deck. Zoo Warlock always finds a way, doesn't it, Firebat?
Usually finds a way, at least for a little while. So, if the Demon Hunter nerfs are pretty severe, Galen was saying he thinks Zoo could be the best deck in the game. That's how strongly he feels about Zoo. I think since then he's cut Flame Imp from the list, though, because he says it's just not worth it over... I think he put in another
Blazing Battle Mage.
Yeah. That makes sense.
The
can't take that damage.
Yeah.
Well,
specifically in the metagame right now, given the popularity of aggro Demon Hunter. But I think that probably the card that I feel like I misevaluated the most from the set was Imprisoned Scrap Imp. I was just like, if you're playing like a board-based like Warlock deck, you really need to get down quickly and can't really afford to play this. It's like, actually, it's just like it just gives you so much raw power. Of you see that's the reason he's playing stuff like Stone Tusk Boar and Wisp, right? Like you just get +2/+2 to these, and suddenly you're playing 1-cost 3/3s, 0-cost 3/3s, and that's just like a hugely impactful thing. And you can afford to do that because you're a Warlock, and not only do you have life tap, but you have Hand of Gul'dan, and you can just refill your your hand with that plus the expired merchants and Soulfire and whatever else.
Yeah, the Expired Merchant Hand of Gul'dan interaction where it discards the highest card and then you get it back and then you just keep discarding it and keep drawing your whole deck.
Yeah, you're just gonna draw your entire deck like every game.
Yeah, it's super nutty. So a really cool discovery by Gallon and his friends, and I'm sure that there's a lot of other people who've been working on this deck list as well. We do have one other Warlock deck list to show you. It's the Gallic Ron Warlock, which also hit top 10 Legend. And it's very similar to what people expect. It's like a dragon-based package, and you play Galakron, and you just control the board, and you use really powerful removal tools to outlast your opponent. Top 10 Legend with this is something I wasn't expecting, but it makes sense given that it's one of the better defensive decks out there.
Well, there are two things I want to highlight here. One, Sack Pact, again, so powerful in the Demon Hunter metagame. Two, Moarg Artificer. That is really, really good with Mortal Coil and with Nether Breath. You can actually Nether Breath and gain 8 life with that, and kill big minions. So I think that's like one of the things that's really carrying that deck in the metagame right now.
Yeah, it's something that was definitely under the radar for me, and I think that was really cool to see it come out.
Yeah, I think all the Galakron decks are going to make a big comeback. I think a lot of people are just, because it's a new expansion, are not putting Galakron in their deck yet. And we're going to see some win rates go up with some of these other classes when people start re-including Galakron.
Yep.
He's still good.
That's right. So any other Warlock decks, or should we do Warrior?
Let's go to Warrior.
All right. So with Warrior, we had 2 decks that perform well, which shouldn't really surprise you. They're 2 decks that have actually been battle tested and proven leading up to this expansion. Gallic Ron Warrior, still very solid as a mid-range option, primarily preying on decks that aren't Demon Hunter for the most part, but still like overall a very solid game plan. Guardian Og Merchant, definitely one of the cards that has been overperforming a lot from what I've seen. And then Highlander Warrior, Bunny Hopper hit top 20 Legend, just playing a very defensive Warrior deck. I know Kibler's also playing some Taunt Warrior stuff. Just felt like Warrior defensive game plan was sometimes enough to beat Demon Hunter for the most part. Is that what you found too, Kibler?
Yeah, like the armor gain plus like solid removal, and especially like I was playing a lot of Into the Fray Warrior, which I had a lot of success in the first day, and then started to have less success as I think that the Demon Hunter decks got more refined, and the being able to put like big stats into play against a lot of the aggressive versions actually is like pretty tough for them. They don't really have great ways to deal with like a Tomb Warden that's buffed by Armageddillo or whatever. Obviously, that's fairly late in the game, but if you can right. like preserve your life total, use armor gain, kill their minions up to that point, you can create some difficult scenarios for them to get through because they don't have hard creature.
Yeah, and as well, Warrior is really good versus combo variants because the combo variants have a pretty limited amount of total damage, and you can actually remove all their stuff and just outlast it with things like this Highlander Warrior.
Yeah. And it's cool. Control Warrior is like a really popular archetype within the Hearthstone fan base. So it still does exist in the form of this Highlander Warrior. A little pricey, but if you've been playing Hearthstone for the past year, you pretty much have most of it already, plus a few new tools to use. Okay. Is there any other Warrior decks we don't have here listed? Okay, cool. So with that, we did talk about, in the middle of this segment, the new nerfs that'll be coming. This was announced minutes ago. This is how you know the show's live.
Look at this.
Thank you, Greg. Well done. Shout out to Greg and Matt Com, who still is part of OmniSlash, by the way, but is helping out with graphics. So this is fresh, hot off the press. Scold of Gul'dan, Imprison Antaean, I-Beam, and Aldraji Warblades, as mentioned, were target cards, and they will be nerfed in terms of its mana cost and its durability. So Scold of Gul'dan going from 5 to 6, Antaean going from 5 to 6. I-Beam Outcast bonus is going from 0 to 1, so no longer will be 0 mana free, it'll be 1 mana. And then durability decreased from 3 to 2. Firebat, is this enough? Is this the right direction? Are these the right cards here?
Is it enough to make Demon Hunter not the best deck? Maybe. It's pretty close. They are not very strong nerfs. They're pretty light nerfs, which I'm actually happy about. I'm really happy that they're not too extreme. These seem I think they could have nerfed Skull to 7 and Demon Hunter would still be good. But I think it's still probably going to be the best deck or pretty close to it, which is where I want it to be. I want it to be the best or pretty close to the best because I think it's the most fun and different play experience you can get from Hearthstone. So I'm happy to be able to, for it to be competitive viable.
We don't want to give the Shaman treatment from Descent of Dragons.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there were 2 rounds of nerfs for Shaman in Descent of Dragons, right? So it still could happen. After the first one, Shaman was still really good.
Yeah, fair enough. Kibler, your first impressions and reactions here.
I like these changes. I think that the skull change, like Firebat said, like that's still going to be a very powerful card. I think the biggest of these is I-Beam. Like the difference between 1 and 0 is enormous. The difference between like you get to play your tempo game and free kill your opponent's stuff. Like that's going to make Demon Hunter a lot more vulnerable to opposing minions and like not just be able to like play out like this super efficient tempo game and kill all their opponents stuff for free. So that's the one that stands out to me as the biggest change. It's an infinite increase, right? Like 0, 0 to 1. Like,
yeah, and it makes it a lot harder for
you can't divide by that. Like,
yeah, you're not gonna be able to move things around in your hand as easily,
right?
Because before you could kind of set up I-Beam on the left and then be able to just chain things very flexibly.
That's one of the other things I wanted to say is that like all of these kind of compound, right? Like Skull going to 6 means that if you skull into Skull, your next Skull is 3. So that's harder to move through your hand and get to the right point, and your I-Beam's no longer being free means that there's more cost to manipulating the location of cards in your hand for Outcast. So like all of these changes actually ripple effect to like all the other Outcast cards. That's a really big deal.
Yeah, I don't even know if you play Anton anymore because 6 is so much.
Anton.
Imprisoned Anton?
Imprisoned Antonitis? Oh my god. I mean, he basically just fireballs your opponent twice when he comes out. Like...
Imprisoned Antaean? Yeah, I think 6 might be... It might be too much. It's going to get stuck in your hand so often. Because if you can't play it exactly on 6, it's just going to ruin your Outcast for the whole game. So that's going to be a tough one to try and wiggle back in.
Yeah. It does seem like this will make a impact. Is it enough though? Like we said, we don't want it to be completely evaporated from the meta game because Demon Hunter is the new thing. So we still want people playing it. And I'm sure the cool thing too is that maybe there's other Demon Hunter decks that can finally start to see play in terms of different archetypes. So hopefully we get to see some of that. And I believe this is going to be happening later today. It's not live right now, according to some people in the chat. We wouldn't necessarily know unless we played some games. That's right. It's time for the final segment of the show. We're going to combine Whose Meme Reigns Supreme, a gameplay segment where we play a bunch of fun decks, with the fan mailbag. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to have 2 players playing, and then while that happens, we'll sprinkle in some fan questions and maybe even toss it to our panelists. So Kibler and Firebat, why don't you start us off? I know Kibler has a bunch of fun decks planned.
I do.
At his disposal. He can just snap it into existence.
It's me versus the NordVPN server that's apparently at Firebat's house, as we learned from the intro, right? Like,
yes. Connecting
just gonna VPN right in over there.
Firebat versus Firebat.
All right,
can have a little fireside gathering at Firebat's place.
Yeah.
And then we can unlock the card backs and stuff. That'd be sick.
Firebat's firesides. How come that's not a thing?
It would be catchy.
All right, we're gonna get the production stuff up and switch it to gameplay mode. In the meantime, are we able to throw up maybe a question while we stall? I know we're asking a lot out of our one-man production crew. Hey, Greg does everything. All right, so this is a question from Chad Celestialon. He is a game dev. I felt like, starting us off easy as we get into the show, and then we'll get to some of the harder questions. Chad asked, what's your favorite deck so far based on fun, not performance, though those are understandably related? Mr. Kibler.
I mean, I've had a lot of fun playing the Plot Twist deck. The Plot Twist, like tools that you have against the Demon Hunters make a lot of those games feel actually pretty fun. Like, even though they're doing really powerful things, you're like, haha, you have your giant demon. Well, I'll sack pack that and play my own giant demon. And it actually feels kind of thematic, right? Like this battle between the various various demonic,
Right.
utilization
versus
classes or whatever.
Illidan.
So,
Mhm.
and obviously you could do all the wacky stuff with Rafam, though Rafam has come up a lot less. And as I mentioned before, I'm probably going to end up cutting that, which makes me very sad. I do think the dragon version seems like substantially better, but I'm still just kind of a Rafam fan deep at heart.
For sure. Firebat, do you have a favorite deck so far?
My favorite deck is probably the combo OTK Demon Hunter. It feels really cool to play. It's very
Ruthless.
powerful. It's fun. Makes me think about the game differently. Think about different aspects in Hearthstone that I've never thought about before, with the whole outcast mechanic and stuff. So I think it's a really fun and challenging experience.
So overall, you're a fan of the outcast mechanic, Firebat, right? Because that's kind of also, when people saw the balance disparity between Demon Hunter and the rest of the classes, that also brought up outcast as a mechanic in general. You really like that.
Oh, I love the outcast mechanic. I think it's super cool. It really makes me think about the game differently. Thinks about how I play every individual. It feels like when I play Demon Hunter, it feels like I'm playing a different game than when I play any of the other 8 classes.
Interesting.
So, or 9 classes, sorry.
My favorite deck to play is Lucent Bark Druid, because right now you have the Imprisoned Satyr, which goes dormant for 2 turns, but when it awakens, it discounts a card by 5 mana. Or minion, rather, not a card. And then, so you can sometimes jam out ridiculous Lucent Bark combinations, and I just take a lot of pleasure, shutting down the Demon Hunters with that until they silence my Lucent Bark and
I feel like
hit me for bajillion damage, or they just ignore it. But it had like a 60% win rate, and I was like happy enough with it.
Nice.
All right, so we have Hunter versus Shaman. That's fun. I have a Shaman deck as well, but I'm interested to see what Kibler has. Are you two willing to reveal?
A big problem for me. I don't really have great ways to actually end the game before that becomes an issue. Uh-oh.
I have a finisher in this deck.
You didn't want to rush me. My Wrath of Air Totem.
Yeah. We let him live.
Oh no. Really gonna hex the new cards, Kibler?
Yeah, get that out of here.
That's pretty toxic.
What a cool card, you gone.
Now I'm gonna kill your Wrath of Air Totem.
New card, PogChamp. Rumble.
Yeah, that card is pretty solid actually. I like it a lot.
This card I think is actually really sweet.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the things that's like actually I think overperformed.
The
I
Shattered
do
Rumbler?
like the last turn spell mechanic. Like it makes you think about your turns in like different ways of like trying to set up and everything. Obviously, it's very similar to the elemental mechanic. In this case, even an elemental, but
Yeah, you actually even called it out, but I believe it was Marsh Spawn, the 3 mana 3/4 that if you played a spell the previous turn discover a spell. That card also seems very solid.
oh yeah.
Based off the way the draws and what it looks like so far have been panning out, I'm pretty sure I know what kind of deck this is on both ends. It's very fun.
Of course it's the right way.
Uh-oh. Lots of questing. Me. None of these are what I want.
I guess it begs the question, what do you want?
I want more Farsights, so I can find my cool
More
card.
card draw.
Always more card draw.
Yeah, they kind of took most of that away from Shaman, though. I like
Did.
type draw into the search bar for Shaman. I saw only Mana's Hide and Farsight, and I cried a little bit.
This West Shaman's not very good, man.
Who is playing? Firebat and Kibler are playing right now.
Not the end.
Out of curiosity, Firebat, is this a deck that you played on stream at all?
I have not played this on stream, no.
Okay. Quest Hunter.
Look at that
Is this your
symmetry,
own
though.
creation?
No, I saw Dexter playing this. It was in one of our slides, too, this deck.
Yeah, the Quest Hunter.
Yeah, the Quest Hunter Triple King Crush Lethal. I saw it in a YouTube video, and I was like, I want to Triple King Crush somebody.
It's very fun. I've played it. I've only pulled it off one time. It took 5 games to get it.
Yeah. I'm gonna get it first try here. Don't worry.
Oh.
I need some help.
Yeah, because it seems like Firebat's going to try to set up that combo, and you're just kind of waiting for him to do it.
That didn't do anything. You have no more bees.
We're working on it.
Okay. Piecing it together.
We needed this hand space. Don't worry. Don't worry.
Need hands. Oh, okay.
It's important. It's important.
Huh.
It's an interesting hand to Kibler's side.
Zangarmarsh is drained. The reservoir remains. Go ahead.
Oh. Interesting.
Hmm.
Uh-oh. That isn't...
Well,
Don't worry.
He,
Don't worry.
That
tried
doesn't
to
seem
draw
good.
a beast from his deck, and he didn't draw anything, and they just copied
So
a beast.
you've got like 2 King Crushes now.
Maybe.
You don't know. What if it's Stone Tusk Boar?
I'd be cool right at the very totem.
Okay.
Be cool.
Well-
Raptor Totem.
I let him live earlier, so now I'm letting him live
Yeah.
again in hopes he doesn't screw me. We've developed a rapport, me and the Rat of the Bear Totem.
Yeah, you two are homies now.
We're homies. We get along.
Settled your differences.
Huh.
Yeah. He knows that even after I win this battle, he'd still be cool. He can come with me. He won't be a prisoner.
Unlike Anton.
Unlike Anton. He'll be in prison forever. And now it's 6
Alright.
mana.
I have no idea what Kibler's gonna do here. He's got so many options.
Are you ready to face the king
Well,
of Crush?
I thought he was gonna ask you that.
Does he have a king in his hand too?
Well, I don't know. I don't know
He
what
couldn't
he's gonna
possibly have
actually
a
do
king of Crush.
here.
Scheming.
Scheming something. Ooh, that's fun.
Oh.
alright.
That was a above average turn.
That was a pretty good turn.
Decent.
No, not another swarm of locusts. Oh god.
Oh wow, it clears off so much of this. But he can't kill
He isn't killing Kel'Thas though.
Kael'thas.
No, just gotta
I
look
wonder
at
if that's a
it.
game changer.
Okay.
Please no more Eye of Storm. Oh my god.
It's a pretty big game changer.
Rat the Bear Totem? Nailed it. See, I told you the rapport. You
Yeah, that's
never
right, you
get
just
Taunt Totem there.
You two are
I'm
linked.
actually dead.
No, I only have 2 King Crushes.
Only two. But yeah, you're supposed to be able to copy another time, right?
Yeah.
That's
There's
only 20,
another
right?
Ramakin Wild Tamer in the deck.
Right.
Am I dead though?
Are you dead?
Yeah.
7 on the board.
Uh huh.
I don't know.
I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. Tell me, Wrath of Air Totem. You're my inside man.
You like take the Wrath of Air Totem.
He says
Try
we're
again
cool.
later.
Oh, no.
Well,
I don't know if you're dead.
you're not.
That's
dead,
a good sign.
Fortunately.
When they don't know if you're dead immediately, that's good. It's already.
Okay, 1 crush down. Nice. Very nice.
Boom! Bog you.
Now gets the Bog Spine
What?
Knuckles. What did it evolve to?
Nothing good.
Yeah, not the most amazing stuff.
Okay.
But I mean, you still have the board dominance, so
It's
Kibler
true. I do.
looks like to be in a really good position.
Still in a
here.
good spot. Still in a good spot.
Yeah. I like it. Gotta get that one in.
All right.
Coin
Making
Desert
progress.
Sphere. Interesting. Oh wow.
Oh.
Oh wow. All right, that's it, right?
That was it.
Let's see what I get though.
What did he
Ooh.
get?
I got an
Larva
Alarmobot.
Very nice. Well
See,
done.
this deck isn't that bad.
Is this the Highlander Shaman?
It's the Highlander Shaman, yeah.
Cool. All right. Let's set up the next game, and then we'll answer a couple questions in the meantime. So let's just pull it up. Whatever we got. So, what question we got here, Greg? All right. Baku the Moon Eater asks, what's been your favorite question? Favorite non-demon hunter deck of the new expansion? I guess we kind of answered that, so we can go to the second part. Are there any sleeper cards you've been surprised with so far? No minion mage seems better than I thought.
Zoo.
Well, like I said, the Imprisoned Scrap Imp was one that, like, was much more impressive when I saw it in action than I initially assumed it would be. You get a lot of the tempo lost back from buffing, especially rush minions and things like that, and the super cheap stuff like we saw Gallon doing with like Boar and Wisp and everything to get these huge bonuses in your hand. What else has been really impressive? One card that I have played and I've seen a number of other decks. It's not a new card, but Mount Seller has like really gone up in value with like a lot of the free stuff. Like I was playing Mount Seller in my Libram Pure Paladin deck, or not Pure Paladin, my Libram non-Pure Paladin deck, and you can like get a bunch of Libram of Wisdoms and like play them on your stuff like for free and make a ton of beasts on your board, and that actually ends up being super cool, especially if you do it like after a Liadrin. So that's been kind of a card that's sort of experienced a resurgence between that and like the Druid decks with like Bog Beam and things like that.
Yeah.
Anything with Kalthas has been sweet. Kalthas still has a lot more love to give. There's going to be some Kalthas decks out there before.
Tempest Keep was merely a setback. He's got a lot left in him.
Cool. My surprise card or sleeper cards are like the ones that have been providing a lot of utility despite it not being super imposing. One of them is the Guardian Aug Merchant. Like that card seems particularly very useful, especially in warrior decks and whatnot. So There's just a lot of cards that have a lot of high power utility stuff that I've been pretty impressed with so far, despite it not being like the carry of the deck. All right, let's do another question, and then we will have myself play Firebat.
Okay.
All right, so Kevin Ellis says, what long-term goals would you like to see implemented in the game that players could strive towards? Think in the vein of 1,000 win portraits.
I mean, I think that they have announced that they're doing an achievement system later in the year. That was something that was on the roadmap that was discussed at the sort of launch of the Year of the Phoenix, which I'm excited about. I would love to see stuff like, weird kind of stuff, like kind of some of the things we see in like Battlegrounds, right? There's like the Battleground stats, it's like biggest minion. Like I'd love to see like, stuff like most damage in a turn, think like how many, cards played in a game or whatever. I don't know, like cards generated from outside the game in a game, like there's all kinds of weird things that you can do that are very like Hearthstone-y. And obviously those are all kind of like built into achievements. They're not necessarily any of them individually on the level of like 1,000 win portraits, but doing like kind of like weird, like cool things like that to give people different forms of motivation.
I think those are good ideas.
Firebat, I'm ready. By the way, you can challenge me, and then we can start. You can answer the question as we're getting right into the game. So Firebat, what kind of long-term stuff you would like to see for the very engaged player, the veterans of Hearthstone?
Veterans of Hearthstone? Maybe you play a certain number of games and get a certain number of wins. You unlock this mystical thing called tournament mode. That would be pretty cool. Not gonna lie.
Tournament mode would definitely be really sweet. And honestly, I think that we're like a lot closer to it than we think with like things like Battlegrounds happening. Before, it just kind of felt like the interface structure, like infrastructure, wasn't there. But if they're being able to find ways to matchmake 8 players, they should be able to find ways to do tournament mode.
Well, I'd love to even just see the ability to make a 8-player lobby in
Battlegrounds. That'd be cool.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Well, we're on the subject.
Oh gosh, Demon Hunter. Firebat, why?
Well, I only had 2 decks built. One was a meme deck, and one was the deck I was playing.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, I can hear you. Whoops. Sorry, we went out of order. Apparently, I was supposed to play Kibler. No problemino. So I like playing Marsh Spawn specifically with Quest Shaman because it seems really fun. You just play Quest on one, and I coined it out. Or you could just do other stuff, and just like the licensed adventure, you can just play and get a coin, whatnot. Oh no, this is the combo variant. Firebat, you're supposed to only play that for 1 mana.
Nah, it's free. The nerfs aren't live yet. Easy.
Are you guys
mode.
actually in a game? I can't see it. It's not actually on the...
Yes, we're in a game right now.
We cannot see it.
Oh, okay. I think it's because we're changing the graphics. Apologies for that.
Well, slow down. Let us see the game.
Firebat, think real hard about what you want to do.
I got it.
It's just rope every single turn until we can see the game.
Yeah. So it's just tell us, Kibler, when. In the
Okay.
meantime, maybe we can pull up another question. Let me see.
Well, that
what we got.
isn't Greg getting the the gameplay up, which is why.
Yeah, we can just go for the question.
Oh, we had the
So
pairings in our
another question next on the list was asked by Elvix. Elvix asked, do you feel like Demon Hunter was intentionally released OP or broken for the hype with the appropriate nerfs already planned for a quick release?
No. I do think that it was released with the understanding that like they would probably have to make changes, right? Like I think that they, it's as you mentioned before, important that they aim on the the air on the side of power so that people don't come in and like they play Demon Hunter. They're like, well, why did I come back to play Demon Hunter? This class sucks. This is boring, right? There's no like conspiracy theory here. Like they want to get it right, but they want to err on the side of it being awesome and exciting rather than it being bad.
Makes sense to me.
Aha. You're in turn 4 already.
Yeah, we're on turn 4.
Ooh, I like Frodan's deck a lot more than I like Firebat.
Wow.
Well, Frodan's deck is cool. Your deck is,
My deck's not cool.
It's not cool.
My Wrath of Airtide totem's back.
Yeah, you got a pal.
Kind of cool.
You and that Wrath of Air totem hang out.
We've been through a lot.
I think this is a much more aggressive Wrath of Air totem than you played against my game.
That doesn't sound good. Maybe he got angry because I killed his master last game.
Yeah, maybe. I think I want to do this. I think I want to do this.
Whoa.
I think I want to give my totem some.
Look at this.
Totemic Might?
Totemic Might!
What?
I told you, it's a much angrier Wrath of Air totem.
Oh my gosh.
You can only consume magic a couple of these. The rest of them.
It's real sweet if you get to finish the quest, but it doesn't look like I'll be able to do it this game.
Wait, you have a quest?
Yeah, so there's a lot of battle cry stuff, and then the winning moment is when you're able to do battle cry totem stuff.
You want to double your splitting axe?
Yeah, I actually have a screenshot of
for that in like any board ever. Like,
yeah, you'd be surprised. You just get like one Manatide totem, and you just buff it, and then you copy it twice, and then you just draw your entire deck. It's pretty sweet. Firebat, why? I thought you and the Wrath of Air totem were buddies.
Yeah, but he's getting a little loud out there.
The poor totems, they've now been silenced.
Wow.
They're getting rowdy. We needed to calm them down.
Wow.
Well, I mean, this will not stand. This aggression will not stand.
Oh my god, they're back.
They're back.
Boo!
More totems.
A pair of 4/5s. You already used both your silences.
Yeah.
It's not great. It's not great.
Oh no. Thank God.
Not active. Haha.
Yeah, I was really hoping it wasn't. I'd be screwed. I'm like pretty all in on this plan right now. Cool. Greg says that he's got a question that he can go ahead and ask while we're waiting.
Ooh, look, there it is. Would you rather have a new class like Demon Hunter come in slaying and being very strong and have it just be an average class that's not too powerful? Also love to see you guys back. Can't wait for the future. I mean, I think that it is better for the class to come in and be very good. I mean, obviously the optimal thing is that it comes in and it's good, but not too good, right? That it's like, one of the best decks, maybe even the best deck, but not by so much that it feels oppressive. That's, like a tough needle to thread. But I think that that's like where you want to be optimal.
What was the question, Kibler? Can you say it again?
Well, now it's on the screen anymore, but it was that would you rather have a new class like Demon Hunter come in slaying and be very strong, or have it be an average class that's not super powerful?
Oh.
Look at these poor
Definitely
totems.
have it slaying. I think Hearthstone needs something like that new class in that Demon Hunter to really give people something to be excited about. Because if it was too fair and too balanced, I think that'd be... Like, I mean, I think that just wouldn't be exciting enough for people. And that's ultimately why people want to play games like Hearthstone. They just want something to be excited about. All right, now that Firebat's completely destroyed my plan.
Well, I haven't had Skull yet. I haven't hit my card draw engine, so it's been a really weak game for me. But you made me kill my own
Says having
totem.
destroyed all of Frodan's stuff.
Oh, interesting. Nah, just go for the guaranteed.
Ooh, you
We're
You
trying
have
to
an
squeeze it in
infinite
there.
value loop going on. And I have nothing. No skull?
Haha.
That's right. They nerfed it by removing it from your deck.
It's rough.
Yeah, that's the actual nerf. You just can't draw it. You put it in your deck and you're just never gonna draw it. That would be the the best way to just like stealth nerf something. It's like you just can't draw it. It's always the bottom of your deck.
That'd be really funny. Okay, so we should do this. Finish the quest, backup plan, the primary game plan, actually. We will summon some lackeys, or get some lackeys, rather.
I don't see the quest having me yet. They'll have your totem here.
Oh, what is it delayed?
Oh.
Perplexing.
Oh.
All of that.
What happened?
I didn't draw skull.
Oh, did Oh, the
Yeah,
spectator
was the
mode
spectator
bugged,
mode
okay.
bugged? Okay. Well,
Yeah,
if the gameplay stuff isn't working out, we can just kind of finish that
Like,
with just
What's
questions.
going on?
Apologies. Basically, I finished my quest. I found a bunch of lackey generators. I'm trying to find a way to pull myself out, and Firebat's gaining a bajillion life.
Mhm.
Oh, gosh.
I might die to like a bloodlust or something though if you have it.
I don't have it in my hand.
It's only 27, but it's too
Ah, we're back.
All right. Can't really copy the totem. That's a shame. Firebat, please don't kill me.
Give me skull.
I have so many dreams.
You don't even need a skull. You just need like inner demon. Oh, there's skull.
But I like the skull.
I'd rather do it with skull. Ooh, Firebat, you're me now, and I'm you.
Ooh.
Oh boy, I'm just waiting for it. All right, GG.
Wow, that is nerfed. You can't do that this turn. You can't skull into.
That's illegal.
Yeah.
Being able to
illegal
skull into
play.
inner demon is
Firebat,
pretty
you are
broken.
banned.
That's gonna be huge. I didn't think about that. You can't draw for that reach at the end
Yep,
anymore.
yep. All right,
That
since we're
was-
having a little bit of issues with gameplay, let's just do the final few questions here and wrap up the show. It wouldn't be a podcast episode with Firebat Frodan here without at least one tech issue.
Exactly.
Fix the audio stuff.
Technical difficulties are, in
Yeah.
fact, our brand.
Yeah, the audio stuff's been really good today.
It has. It's true.
Yeah.
So instead, we have we have
Gameplay issues.
gameplay
but
issue.
Hopefully that won't affect things like the audio portion too much. What happened to Omnistone and what happened to Zalay? Well, Zalay is still streaming and he's alive and well. Don't worry.
As far as I know, Zalay's totally fine.
Zalay's totally fine. In terms of Omnistone, though, and I think we picked this question just because we want to clarify in our first episode, but OmniSlash was the sponsor of Omnistone primarily, and OmniSlash has decided to focus on their game companion app, and we're really grateful to have had OmniSlash sponsor our show for a few years. But all all good things must come to an end. And so OmniSlash decided to go in a different direction besides content creation, which directly affected our show. And that's kind of what put us on hiatus for a few months. But now we're back for the meantime.
And Shira's here.
And Shiro's here. See, we even added to our company, +1.
Yeah.
All right, next question.
Bonus.
Moochie asks, is there any interest in looking into a Patreon-based solution? I definitely throw in a bit. So this was a question that's been asked to us a lot. And the answer is that we don't really feel, at least I don't feel like we want to necessarily take it upon the community to kind of make us do this. We feel like there's definitely a lot of opportunities out there. if anything, we're trying to be judicious with how we do the show. We don't want to necessarily just put on the show and throw it behind like a paywall or throw it behind any kind of exclusivity that would restrict access. We do the show because we love doing it. You can ask Firebat and Kibler. I know I'm speaking on their behalf, but we really enjoy connecting with you directly in chat while doing this live. We love seeing how people come up to us at events and say, Omnistone or whatever title we end up picking for this show is my favorite kind of content out there. That really means a lot. And I think that means a lot more than just taking your dollars. Let us take sponsored dollars instead. we don't want to necessarily have to take your money. And this is a time where I think everyone really wants to be very frugal and judicious with their money. So that's why it's a good opportunity to plug once more. Thank you to NordVPN for sponsoring this show. So that we don't
get yourself a great deal on a 3-year subscription, 70% off. Going to nordvpn.com/Brian Kibler and using the promo code Brian Kibler. Protect your information online today.
All right. So with that, do we have any more questions or should we wrap up the show here? Yes. He Semi asked, I don't use Twitch. Will you put it up on YouTube or podcast apps? One change that we are looking to do for the show is distributing it on audio-only platforms. I'm looking into it right now, but we're going to be trying to do that. So that way we can get access for people who love listening to podcasts, but maybe don't have the opportunity to watch it on Twitch, or perhaps, they're not able to access or conveniently to look at YouTube or VODs. So that is something that we're trying to do. I know that it's been a very popularly requested thing for years now. It's been one of the most highly requested things for our show. All right, now that is the end of the questions. So let's go ahead and get some final words, starting with Mr. James Kostic, 2014 World Champion Firebat.
Final words. Happy to be doing the show again. It's fun hanging out. Had a good time. Thanks everyone for watching. Appreciate it. And shout out to NordVPN for supporting. Feels pretty good, man.
Feels good to be back.
Yeah.
Brian?
Definitely good to be back, and looking forward to doing future episodes. We'll have to figure out exactly when we'll do the next one. But, looking forward to playing more with the new changes to Demon Hunter. I've been having fun, even with what everyone has said has been like, a colossally imbalanced metagame. I've been enjoying it regardless. So maybe I'll be able to even win games with Hunter now that Demon Hunter's nerfed a little bit. We'll see. But if not, I've always got Priest to fall back on.
Excellent. That class. That's right. The other Hunter. You versus the other Hunter she told you not to worry about. It's a meme waiting to happen for anybody who wants free clout. There you go. For myself, follow us on all of our social medias because that's how we're going to be letting you know when the episode goes live on those necessary platforms like YouTube, or if it goes up on any kind of audio podcast. There's definitely a lot of them I'm exploring, like Spotify and iTunes and Podbean, etc. So more info on that soon. And also, if you are a big fan of podcasts in general, I started a Teamfight Tactics podcast with Travis Gafford. Definitely check that out. That happens every other week. On Wednesday nights as well. As for this show, Untitled Stone, the last thing I want to say is we're looking for show title ideas. We can't really agree upon it ourselves. So we just picked Untitled Stone unless there's a big sponsor willing to step in. But so if you have any ideas, feel free to send it our way so we can rebrand accordingly. But that's going to do it for us from Frodan, Kibler, and Firebat. This has been a great launch episode. Have fun with Ashes of Outland, and we'll see you next time for more Hearthstone action.